We can't just take our subject property and draw a circle around it because that may encompass other neighborhoods. Hello, everyone, and thank you for checking out our video here on YouTube. I'm Justin Cooper with Pine Financial Group, where we work together so you succeed. If you like the content or getting value from us, give it a thumbs up and go ahead and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button so you get alerted each week when we have the next video coming out. We've all heard it before. Good comps have to be within 1 mile of your deal, but that 1 mile is actually a myth. And let me tell you why. So what if our subject property, your deal, is on a rural piece of land? What if it's outside of the city a little bit and we're trying to find comparable properties with lots of acreage? If you have lots of acreage, your neighbors probably have acreage. And so to find a comparable, similar property, talking about bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, maybe the lot size, maybe the style of the home, right? All these other characteristics that make it comparable. Maybe you need to go well beyond 1 mile to find comparable properties. First off, right there, 1 mile may be too small to fit and to actually find comparable properties. But what if your property is not out on some farmland? It's not outside the city. What if it's right there inside the city? Well, I live in Denver, and Denver, for the most part, is set up on a grid. So north and south streets, east and west streets, and it's very easy to navigate through the city, but it's also easy to define neighborhood boundaries. And this is going to be important because what we want to do when we're looking for properties, what if we find 50 similar comparable properties that all have the same, again, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, all these other characteristics that make a property comparable, but we are right here on the corner of a north-south and an east-west, and our property is right here, but we're finding properties across these major roads. We have to dig deeper because that might be a different neighborhood, right? We can't just take our subject property and draw a circle around it because that may encompass other neighborhoods. And a different neighborhood might be an entirely different market, and thus they're not going to be comparable anymore. When we're looking at comparable properties, we're looking at several different aspects. One of which, of course, is location. This is the most famous words in real estate, right? Location, location, location. And that's exactly what we're talking about with the 1 mile rule. And so what we have to do is not just define how big a 1 mile circle is, but we have to define the edges of our neighborhoods. And is this neighborhood all going to be comparable? Is maybe the neighborhood on the other side of the street comparable as well? Or is it not? And we have to understand that. And so I want to give a quick example of a property that ran into this. I had a deal, a client was bringing a property and they're buying it from a wholesaler. And the wholesaler said the value was whatever it was, 450. But the property, the subject property, was right next to two highways. In Denver, we have I-25, which is north and southbound, and we have I-70, which is east and west. And this property was in the southeast corner of those two highways. Now, the neighborhoods typically are divided by highways, sometimes by rivers, sometimes by railroad tracks, right? Lots of different things can divide neighborhoods, but an interstate highway is usually a pretty good divider. Now, what the wholesaler had done was use this 1 mile myth. They found the subject property, they drew a 1 mile radius around it, and then they found the comparable properties, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the square footage, all these things. But what they didn't do, or maybe they who knows, maybe they did it on purpose, but they found comparable properties on the other side of the highway. And so what wound up happening was the subject property, the investor was buying a property in a very low end neighborhood. Prices were probably one of the lowest in all of Denver. But right on the other side of that highway was one of the most popular neighborhoods in all of Denver. And so what they're using or trying to use was comparable properties in a different neighborhood, in the hottest neighborhood in all of Denver, and trying to compare that to the subject property in one of the lowest end neighborhoods in all of Denver. And so obviously this wound up killing the deal. Once we dove into the comps and tried justifying the value, we saw that the comparable properties were all over here, but the subject was over here. And so really we had to be going east of the property, south of the property, because that's where all the comparable properties really were. And once we did that, we found out the value was nowhere near that 450 that they expected. If you found this tip valuable and want to learn more about how to value property, take a look around our YouTube channel. We've got several other videos and classes on the subject. And thank you so much for watching. And again, if you like the content, be sure to tell a friend, like, and subscribe. And as always, you can go and find out more at pinefinancialgroup.com.